My name's John Kupke.
He's got a hot rod, a massive garage for all his gear, but his pride and joy has got to be his one-of-a-kind replica of Mad Max's V8 Interceptor.
When I got Steve to sign the poster, I said to him, I got talking to him, he said, is there any questions you want to ask me? And I said, oh yeah, heaps. And I said, you sure? And he went, yeah, no worries, go for it. Anyway, so I asked him heaps of questions. And one of the questions was, I said, in the Mad Max 1 movie, there's a rocket car in the scene where they first introduce Mad Max to the Interceptor in the underground car park. And I said, what was the story with that car? And he said, oh, it's funny you should ask me that question. He goes, it was going to be in the movie, but it got deleted. And rightly so. He said the movie still holds its own to this day. Definitely. And he said there was a lot of scenes in the movie a lot of shots that we took, but they never made it to the movie. He said Goose actually got married in the movie, and but they deleted all that out. And he said, and the movie still holds its own, 20 years on. And that was in the 90s when I was talking to Steve Bisley, and now the movie, it's 2020, so it's another 40, 50 years, and the movie's still very credible. Lots of people still enjoy watching it, it's one of Australia's best movies. So definitely. Steve said to me, this rocket car, he said, it's funny, we had to clear the set because it wasn't an easy shoot. He said, because it involves pyrotechnics, we had to have fireys on at the shoot, and we had to have the right day, the right wind conditions, the right, if it's an overcast day. There's heaps of factors involved when you do a shoot. And
especially back then when they didn't have like CGI. And
yeah, that's right. It had physical. To be. Yes, they couldn't edit it as much. So he said we did a take, and they went to start this thing up, and it wouldn't start. Anyway, all the buffins are running around trying to start it, and they couldn't start it anyway. So the director said, well, take off, and we'll come back tomorrow. And he was pretty angry with them, Anyway, they came back to the next day, and it was still playing up, and things weren't right. And they fired it up, and it stalled, and they couldn't get it going again. And so he said to him, look, I'm getting pissed off. He says, it's costing us a lot of time, downtime and money and that. And he says, just go away, get it right. When you got it right, come back, and then we'll do the shoot. We'll set up the shoot, and we'll do it again. Anyway, so all the buffins had worked out that it was supposed to go, from 0 to whatever, 100 in 4.3 seconds or whatever, just making those figures up, but whatever, they had it all worked out. And it was supposed to actually crash through one of the caravans. And anyway, when they finally had the shoot, it was like up to take 40. And anyway, the thing took off and missed the caravan and just took off. And they said, we're lucky we're in outback Australia. And he said we're in, I think he said it was out near Swan Hill somewhere where they did the shoot. Mad Max 2 was Broken Hill. Mad Max 1, it was in Melbourne. It was all over the show in Melbourne. It was actually in Footscray and Sunshine and all that area is all built up now. It's all houses and factories. But back then it was sort of out of town, it was country. So yeah, they did this particular shoot with a rocket car in I think it was Swan Hill. Anyway, so they said, wow, it's gone, And they said, how do you stop it? And they said, well, we can't, it's out of range. And it was remote control, And they said, wow. I said, well, how do you know where it's going to go? And I said, we don't. I said, well, how much fuel's in it? And they said, oh, we're not really sure, Anyway, I think they ended up having to hire a helicopter, and they found it 40 kilometres away, and it had all farm fencing wrapped around the nose cone, and gone across a couple of main roads, shot across the main roads, and finally run out of petrol, 40 k's, and just sitting there when they found it, in one piece. So yeah, didn't make the cut, didn't make the shoot for the movie. Would have been interesting though, and I think it also must have given them ideas for Mad Max 2 and Mad Max 3 because there's the similar sort of cars were put in those movies. So it wasn't probably a total waste of time. It gave someone a bit more inspiration, and it ended up making their way into the next 2 movies. Another thing he said to me was, when I was putting this car together in Broome, I actually had a few ideas for a movie, and I said to him, oh, you know, I've got an idea for a Mad Max 4 at the time, because Mad Max 4 has only just come out in the last few years now. You know, I said to him, well, how would you like to play the Goose again in say Mad Max 4? And he went, oh look, he said, Jono, Mad Max 1 was my first movie. We just come straight out of acting school, and we got thrown this role, we got thrown the, what do you call it? The script, yeah. And he said, oh, we never seen anything like it. And he said, we had no money. And he said, so we just took it. We took the script home and thought it was that wild and that crazy, and, you know, it was money straight off the bat. So we took it. And, he said, I only got paid $1,500 for that movie, for my part in the movie, and I think he said Gibson only got $3,500 or $5,000. The whole movie cost $350,000 to make, and by today's standards, that's actually not a lot of money. And he said, when I met Steve, he was doing the TV series Water Rats, and he said that's $350,000 is actually one episode of Water Rats. So it gives you an idea of how cheap they made that movie. So they built this Mad Max 1 on a very tight budget, and it's grossed, for the amount of money that it cost to make, it grossed a heap of money, you know. So they did really well with that movie. So yeah, and I forget the budget for Mad Max 4, but it was millions, you know, it was huge. You know, one of the things they did phase out too in Mad Max 3, and they just got a little bit of it in Mad Max 4, was the other star of the movie, and that's the car, you know. So the car was as big as the star as the actors were, and I don't think they got that, you know, in the end with Mad Max 3 and Mad Max 4. Mad Max 4, they brought it back in there. It's just in the first couple of scenes, and then it plays a real brief role during the movie, but they've spray painted it and wrecked it a bit and changed it, you know. But yeah, if I had my way, Mad Max 3 would have had the car in it, and it would have been a whole different ball game. You know, the car would have been up there with Gibson the whole time. Yeah, and the little blue heeler in Mad Max 2, he became a bit of a star as well. I liked him. He made the movie, you know. So of course, if I was ever to make a Mad Max movie, the car would be back in it, and believe it or not, come here you, I'd have the dog back in it. And what sort of a dog would I have in it? I wouldn't have the Bluey. I'd have a Mad Max is supposed to be a policeman, and cops have police dogs, and a shepherd is a real good police dog. So I'd have the old Shep sitting in the seat next door to me, you know, and he'd be the new star of the Mad Max 4.